Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my first 3 Amazon products, which were actually both failures and successes, which I'm going to dive into, and I'm going to talk about that entire journey, what I went through, my motivation at the time, the thoughts that were going through my head as I was going through the failures and before I reached success, and how I kept pushing. So I think that this video is really going to motivate you, especially if you're starting out with Amazon FBA, if you're starting out with online business today. And honestly, I thought it'd be kind of cool and almost humbling for myself to go back to that time and explain the things that I struggled with and just my entire journey. Now, I want to start with a disclaimer. So I started my Amazon FBA journey, my entire e-commerce journey in 2017. It was, I started probably March of 2017. So over 4.5 years ago at the time of making this video. Right now we're in January of 2022. So the reason I say that is because I'm going to mention specific numbers in this video, how much money I started with for each product, how much my starting investment was, how much money I'm making in revenue sales numbers. But these numbers are obviously going to be approximate because they're purely based off my memory. Now, obviously, like I remember, what I'm saying is that they're not going to be the exact a number or the exact dollar figure. They're more going to be like ballpark figures, how much I made, because I remember, obviously. But the process of launching a product on Amazon FBA is still the exact same. I just wanted to put that out there, that the numbers are just purely based off my memory. So let's get right into it. My first product was teeth whitening charcoal. And this was my very first product attempt on Amazon FBA. I had been studying Amazon FBA and doing it for, I think, about 2 to 3 months. And so I was really confident in this product. All right, so here's the product. As you can see, it was in these jars, in these like black looking jars or containers. And the price I remember was much higher. So at the time, it was a big trend. You saw everybody on Instagram, everybody on social media, they were basically promoting these teeth whitening charcoal products. And what you would do is you would take the charcoal and you would brush your teeth with a charcoal and toothbrush. And then that would basically, that was supposed to make your teeth whiter. So if we look at Jungle Scout today, how much money these products are making, still $45,000 a month. As you can see, there's a lot less of this exact product. Now I'm seeing there's a lot more variety. There's the UV LED lights. There's also these ones in the push bottles. And my main competitor at the time was Active Wow. They were selling a jar version. I'm pretty sure they're still selling it today because I saw it if we go to their store. And I remember when I first was looking at this product using Jungle Scout. I've used Jungle Scout ever since the beginning, because obviously it tells you how much money products are making on Amazon. Without it, I would not have been able to make any money on Amazon whatsoever. And honestly, I don't know how anybody would be able to start an Amazon business without Jungle Scout. And it's not just the Jungle Scout promotion, it's the truth. And that's what I'm using to show you how much money the products are making here. So this one here, Active Wow, I guess they changed the picture, but it was in that jar and it was making $30K a month when I was looking at it. Now, okay, so it's making $57K a month still. And if we go down, this is actually Keepa. So this shows us like the sales rank history. So we can see it was launched 967 days ago, which I think is about 3 years. So maybe their listing like got removed, and maybe this is a new ASIN. But anyway, they've been selling very consistently at high revenue since then. So this teeth whitening charcoal was a hugely trending product at the time, and that's what made me think about going into it. And I invested about $2,200, including shipping, into a first MOQ order of 500 units. So the cost per unit with shipping ended up being about $4 to $5 per unit. So I think for the actual jar of teeth whitening charcoal, it was like $2.20, and then the rest was shipping on top of that, which brought it up to $4 to $5. Now I thought it'd be smart to actually sell it on Amazon.ca, so Amazon Canada, as I was just starting out, and at the time, Amazon Canada was relatively new. There weren't that many products, there wasn't that much selection, and I figured, you know what? I actually saw that there was that same brand, Active Wow. I'm pretty sure they were selling on Amazon Canada as well, and so I thought, you know what? There's not really a lot of sellers. Active Wow is already selling. There's like 2 products here on Amazon Canada. Same ones. I'm just going to create something with a good brand. I'm going to launch it, and I should at least get a portion of the sales. 10, 15, 20K a month was obviously the goal. I think the top one was making like 30K a month. And so what happened was that I waited 3 weeks for the product to be manufactured and shipped. And then bad news came. I remember I was walking from, I think it was in the parking lot of my job at the time. I used to work at the bank, and I was walking from my office to my car in the parking lot. For which I had to pay for every day. That was really annoying. But I remember getting a phone call from FedEx, and I used FedEx to actually airship the product. Back then, air shipping was much cheaper. Obviously, today it's more expensive. Now I recommend using sea shipping because for the most part, air shipping is just way too expensive. And so I pick up the phone, and then the FedEx lady tells me that, yeah, sir, your product was seized by Health Canada at the Port of Vancouver for missing English and French ingredients on the label. And I was like, wow, I was devastated because obviously how was I supposed to change the label? It's already labeled on the product by the supplier. And I had no idea that it had to be in English and French. It made sense because all of our products in Canada, where I was raised and where I lived at the time, and I still live, for a portion of the year, basically all of our products have both English and French in the ingredients. And so I asked the lady, I was like, well, what can I do to save the product? Because obviously I invested money into it. And she said that I had an option of going to the port and then basically changing the labels myself at the port. And obviously I wasn't going to do that. How was I going to get the labels? Plus I was in Toronto at the time. Vancouver is on the completely other side of the country. So I told her, okay, you know what? Just destroy it. And so I told them to destroy it and I lost $2,200. And so the lesson that I learned here, because in every single failure, there's a lesson, there's a valuable lesson. I knew this already because I was reading all the books on entrepreneurship and success. And so I was in the right mindset, thankfully. So I knew not to give up. I knew that even though I lost this money, that all I had to do was keep trying and just learn from my mistakes. And so the lesson that I learned here was to make sure that I do all of my research, make sure to do all your research, and also that it's probably much easier to start on Amazon USA simply because there's just less regulations in the US for products like that. Definitely, there's no English and French, label requirements in the United States. And the United States is just more relaxed compared to Canada. We have much stricter rules, I would say, especially for customs and bringing products in. It's not to say that you can't start a successful e-commerce business in Canada. Obviously, you can, and there are thousands of people doing it. But I just figured at the time, okay, you know what? My next product is definitely going to be in the US. This Canada experiment was kind of a fail, but whatever, I'm just going to learn from it. And so I immediately began looking for a second product. Now, I want to take you through some of the thoughts that I was going through here because my motivation through this journey was like, I would definitely say, and it's probably like with any new entrepreneur, your motivation kind of goes just like up and down and up and down. And it's just a roller coaster, right? There's nobody that's just like bulletproof and invincible and just like going out and they're like, yep, I don't care. 99 attempts, don't care if I fail in all of them, I'm going to succeed. And people that say that, I think they're lying. I think that we're all human beings and we all have, we all have emotions and we all have just, I guess, thoughts, right? We all have our minds that are constantly, I would say, racing, not all the time, but especially at the beginning of the entrepreneurship journey, that's a very common thing. And so some of my thoughts at this point were that I was very discouraged, but because I was in the right mindset from reading all the success books, and the only reason that I was reading books was because I was watching guys like Tai Lopez. I'm sure you know Tai Lopez, say what you want, but huge respect. He is one of the guys that got me into entrepreneurship and online business. I think he got a lot of people into specifically reading books when before that, I only read books for school or as a kid, as a child back then when there were like less electronics and no smartphones. And so because I was reading books like Rich Dad Poor Dad and Think and Grow Rich and The Secret, I really kept myself in a positive mindset, which allowed me to just let the negativity bounce off of me like it was nothing. And so I developed this bulletproof shield around me. And I knew that if I just kept going and I didn't give up, I could never fail. So that brought me to my second product. And this product was the Barn Door Roller Guide. Now you're probably wondering, Dan, what the heck is a Barn Door Roller Guide? And honestly, at the time, I had no idea. But I had learned, there was an interesting fact, and I don't think it's a fact anymore, maybe to an extent, but at the time it was much more of a fact, I would say, that the more obscure the product, the better on Amazon. It's not the case anymore, I would say. I would say that now it's all about branding. It's all about really creating a product and a brand that brings value to your customers and your target market. And so you don't want to be selling just like random garbage, random shit, honestly. And so this was the product. It was literally like a piece of hardware for the bottom of a barn door, a sliding barn door. So at the time, here is like the backstory. At the time, when I was doing product research, I found that there was this new trend of home improvement, specifically in the southern states of the United States. So like South Carolina, Texas, and the Midwest as well. I noticed that there were a lot of these sliding barn doors that people were installing in their houses. And I only noticed that because I found this product through Jungle Scout when I was doing Amazon product research. So this is what the product is. I'm trying to find a picture for you that shows it with the door. Here it is. I guess this is like the entire kit, but it would go all the way at the bottom of the door there. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I can create a better brand for sure because the top sellers are making like 8K, 10K, 12K a month. At the time, I was like, that's if I even make this like 6K, that's plenty of money. That was much more money than I was making at my job. So I said, okay, I'm going to go and create a better brand. I'm going to source it from China and I'm going to create an amazing listing and just like put all my power and all the knowledge that I was gathering into creating a great listing and just launching this. So I invested about $1,400 into my first order of this product, including shipping, and that was for a first MOQ order of 500 pieces. So the cost with shipping for this product brought me to about $2.80 for per unit. And so I think it was like $1.80 for the actual unit, and then it was $1 for the shipping. And I also air shipped these as well. So I definitely learned from my previous mistake here, and I decided to sell this and release this on Amazon.com, Amazon USA. So what happened was that the product arrived, and then I flipped on PPC, I turned on PPC, and I started selling, but it only started selling 2 to 3 units a day. And what happened was that as the days went, so like in week 1 of launch, I sold only like 2-3 units a day, and I was getting kind of worried. I was like, okay, when is the product supposed to take off? When am I going to make all these Amazon millions that the people are talking about online? And so what happened was that it just basically stayed at 2 to 3 units a day in week 1 and 2 of launch. There were a few days in week 2 where the product actually reached 4 to 8 sales a day, 4 to 8 units a day. And so I got excited, but the product just never really took off. And the demand was clearly not high enough because the top competitors were making like 8K a month, 10K a month, 12K a month. So it wasn't like the top competitors, like with the teeth whitening charcoal, it wasn't like they were making like 30, 35, 40K a month. And so, as like 2 or 3 weeks passed, I realized, okay, obviously this was not going to be a winner. And so I started searching for a new product. And so what happened was that I actually ended up selling out eventually with this barn door roller guide, and I actually broke even. So I didn't lose any money. And by the time that I broke even, I had already launched my 3rd product, which ended up being a success, which I'm going to cover here as the next product shortly. So the lesson learned here was not to invest into a product that has too low of a demand. And I can definitely tell you that at this point, in terms of like what I was thinking, my motivation levels, and what I was, I guess maybe worrying about, what I was thinking. At this point, I had tasted Amazon's success. I really saw the potential. This was also where I made my first sale on Amazon. So it really got me in the zone. And that first sale that you make on Amazon is absolutely magical. If you haven't made your first sale yet on Amazon, you'll see that when you make a sale on Amazon, it like confirms so many things to you. First of all, it confirms that this works. Second of all, it confirms that you can actually make money yourself without depending on a job or the government or, everything other than yourself. It shows to you, it's almost like proof that you can make money with your own hands, with your own creation of your own doing. And that's a very powerful feeling. And so for me, I really felt empowered through that. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And, because I had made plenty of sales, although they, wasn't a lot of sales and I was just breaking even, because I had tasted that like relative success, like very small success, it was enough of a feedback loop for me to continue and really push through. So my motivation honestly just got even higher, absolutely blowing everything out of the water, just absolutely being a smash hit success. And this brought me to my 3rd product, which was the microneedle derma roller. Now, if you didn't know that I sold a microneedle derma roller, this was my first successful product. And if you've sold on Amazon for any length of time, you know that this product has a lot of problems selling on Amazon. First of all, it's actually considered a medical device in the United States. It has to be approved by the FDA, which is very hard to get. So I had a lot of issues with Amazon trying to get this to work, but it was still a smash hit for me, and I'm gonna explain why. So this is what the product looked like. As you can see, it was this exact product, except it just wasn't green. It was like a black and purple one. And it was the same exact needle length. It was 0.25 millimeters. And I actually sold at the exact same price point. So it was like $14.97. This Esdara, I remember that they launched right after I actually launched my product. So they've been selling since then, although as you can see, 69 days. This must mean that they literally just constantly get removed and reapproved and then removed and reinstated, which was the main issue that I faced with this product. As you can see, when it's up, it's making $165,000 a month. So obviously a very profitable product, very profitable niche. So I invested about $1,800 into my first order of this product, which was including shipping of 400 units. That was my minimum order quantity, MOQ. So the cost with shipping ended up being $4.50 per unit. And then immediately when the product got in, I got hit with a listing deleted email. I think it was like a product removal notice. That's what they call it, like a listing removal or product removal notice. And when I got that email, I legit got like a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, 3rd product, like what now, right? And so I read the email and it said that microneedle rollers were actually considered an FDA medical device and it has to get approved by the FDA. But then it said only if the derma roller needles are above 0.25 millimeters. And so the one that I launched actually was exactly 0.25 millimeters. So technically, I didn't need to get any special approval from the FDA. And so I was like, thanking God, I'm like, okay, there's some kind of saving grace here. Like I can go in and, try to like, not fight Amazon, but try to like get this product reinstated. And so I actually ended up getting the listing back up. I got it back up and I submitted the required documents that they were asking me. And this involved me calling Amazon nonstop for like 2 weeks. I called them and it was the most frustrating experience ever. I mean, I just kept calling seller support and I was just like begging to get the product reinstated. And so eventually, one of the agents said, cool, yeah, I reinstated your product. And I was like, this is amazing. And so what happened after that was that literally 1 week after, the product hit $32,000 a month in revenue. And I remember this very well. So at the time, I was actually in the Bahamas with my friend. So we stopped window cleaning together and then we booked a ticket to the Bahamas. It was a super cheap ticket. It was on one of those like, cheap flight deal websites. And it was like $200. We get there and I opened my Amazon Seller Central app on the beach with him, and he actually also started his Amazon business, and I saw $1,000. Like the day started off with like 400, and then it went to like 600, 800, and then I remember refreshing, it was like 1187 or something, and I was like, this is absolutely insane. This is more money than I ever made. This is more money than anyone in my entire family ever made in a single day. And I had made that money, I think it was by like 3 p.m. And I was on this absolutely beautiful beach on the island of Exuma in the Bahamas, this beautiful turquoise water. And the best part was that I had my friend there with me, and he also succeeded with his Amazon product. He succeeded with his first product, which is pretty amazing. He didn't actually go through 2 failures like I did. He just succeeded with his first product. He didn't have any product removal problems or customs problems or anything like that. And we were both just so happy, so grateful, and so excited. It was honestly incredible. And that's when I got addicted to like refreshing my Amazon Seller Central, because the sales just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. And it was like a very emotional time because, for me, I was $40,000 in student debt. I worked my ass off cleaning windows. I thought that I was destined for a life in a cubicle at the bank. And I saw where that was going. And I was like, going from that, making $30K a year, $35K a year, and I had to wear a suit, by the way, making $35K a year, and just going from that to making over $1,000 in a day in sales was just like, I had legitimately had tears in my eyes. It was like one of the most life-changing moments for me, because to me, it confirmed everything that I worked for and everything that I believed. All my hard work came to fruition. And since then, I've had many moments like that. Obviously, like you have the same moment when you make your first 100K, you make your first million, when you change somebody's life online for the first time, for example, like what I do through my consulting, through our courses at Ecom Freedom, for example, right? So we all have moments like that, but that was one of the best, most transformational and definitely most emotional moments of my life. And so that Derma Roller product hit 32K that month. And it gave me the motivation to continue expanding, and it just fueled me like nothing else. And so when I got back from the Bahamas, actually, I think in the Bahamas, I started looking for another product already. And this is what brought me to my 4th product. And I wanted to throw this one in here because I think that a lot of you have heard about this product. You've seen this product. It is none other than the Jade Roller. So I actually got into the Jade Roller before the Jade Roller craze, right? So this is what it looks like. It's this green product. So this is what it looks like on Amazon, as you can see. And I sold the green one, not the pink one. And there were only like 2 or 3 sellers when I actually started this. So I'll give you the backstory. By the way, this product to this day is making absurd amounts of money, although it is a very competitive product, and I do not recommend launching it. And the prices were definitely not this cheap when I was starting out. This is why differentiation is so important, and making sure that you really sell, create an amazing brand and sell something that will actually, is an improvement over what exists on the market. So this is the story behind the Jade Roller. So I got home from the Bahamas and I was doing product research on my computer in the kitchen, and my mom was there and she was cooking. And so as I was doing product research, my mom just casually mentioned, she's like, oh, I just saw this product, check it out. I think it's called the Jade Roller, check it out. And I was like, okay, product idea for mom. Let's see how it's doing on Amazon. I had no idea what this was. I had no idea what the Derma Roller was either at the time, by the way. And I sold it and made money. That's all that I cared about. I cared about having freedom and, being able to pay off my debt and just achieving that life that I dreamed of, right? And I was like, okay, I can learn whatever this Derma Roller is. Like, I think that trying to only sell something that you're passionate about at the beginning is going to only hurt you. That's a side topic. So for the Jade Roller, I looked on Amazon and I saw that it was actually a good product. I saw that the numbers made sense, and the top competitor was making like 16K a month in revenue. And then the second one after was like 8. So I'm like, okay, I saw on Google Trends that it was growing, because on Google Trends, you can see based on the monthly Google search volume, how trendy a product is. And so I saw the Jade Roller could have been at the time at the very beginning of an explosive trend. And then my intuition was just really good about the product. And my mom, she told me, she's like, her intuition, she was like, I think this is going to be a hit for you. It perfectly makes sense for you to expand your brand with. And so I launched it. I invested about 3,000 to 4,000 into an order of 1,000 units. So I really went big with this one. And that ended up costing about $3 to $4 per unit, including shipping. And so then I got the product in, the product came in, and the product absolutely exploded. I turned on PPC, and then at the time we were still running giveaways, which is not a thing anymore. And so I ran my giveaway and I hit $40K a month in revenue with this product, like on top of how much money I was making with the Derma Roller. And it perfectly made sense because the other product was also like a beauty roller. So it made sense with the brand. I used the same logo, same type of packaging. And then what happened was that I actually started getting bad reviews coming in because apparently the product was breaking in the mail. And I had no idea because I didn't even get samples for my Derma Roller or any of the products that I launched at the time. In 2017, look, selling on Amazon, it was like the Wild West, completely different time. I would say that e-commerce is still a little bit the Wild West, but not as much as crypto. But back then, I mean, you could literally just not get a sample. I remember the course that I took at the time, the guy was saying, I don't even get a sample, YOLO, just whatever. And so I'm like, okay, fine. And so I didn't get a sample, and this is what happened. I started getting bad reviews because the product was breaking in the mail, and it made sense because it was like a gem, it was made out of jade. And so the jade stone. And so I was like, oh God, what do I do? So I actually asked my supplier on WhatsApp to add extra packing material, which permanently fixed this issue. And so I never got any bad reviews about that again. And my reviews went right back up and I kept making money with this. So the Derma Roller and the Jade Roller brought me to making a consistent $20,000 a month in clean profit per month, which most of it, I gotta admit, I largely reinvested into my inventory, and I started pulling out a little bit of money like in the summer. That's when I did my first road trip purely from my Amazon profits. And that was an incredible feeling. I'm a very big road trip guy, and I did a road trip, like a national park road trip from Toronto, Canada, across the United States in my car, in my Volkswagen Jetta, and it was just incredible. It was an incredible trip, and I was stopping at I think I was sleeping in the car a few nights. I'd stop in a hotel, with a shower like every third night. And then in the morning in Starbucks, I would optimize my PPC and do some product research for the next product. It was an incredible feeling to just drive and refresh my Amazon sales. It was really good. And so around that same time, that was when I actually also started doing YouTube videos, right when I came back from that road trip. And that's when I launched the first Ecom Freedom Amazon FBA course, which absolutely exploded and changed my life in more ways than anything, I would say, as well, other than Amazon FBA. But that was more like in November. So, I'm talking here at this point, we're in the summer. So those are my first 4 Amazon products. And I want to mention there are lots of things that have changed since then. The process of launching a product on Amazon is the same. It's actually simpler because it's not so much the Wild West anymore. There are less black hat tactics. Now it's really just up to your product being good and then you having a good brand. And how you do that, you can check out my long Amazon FBA tutorial I have on my channel. It's like 4 or 5 hours. I've got tons of amazing Amazon FBA videos and got a playlist you can check out as well. So those are some things, but I want to mention some of the stuff that actually has changed, just like my biggest tip. So the first thing is that back then there was no USP needed. So you didn't need like a unique selling point. You didn't need to improve the product whatsoever. Back then you could just literally copy and paste the product, and like maybe improve the brand a little bit, make it a little bit nicer, make the listing a little bit nicer, and it would just sell. Now you absolutely have to improve your product over your competitors. It's not even a question. Like I mentioned, you need to have a unique selling point. And the best way to do that is by looking at your Amazon top negative reviews. So for the product, it literally tells you what the biggest complaint is on the product. And that's going to tell you what you should improve. It's going to be your biggest bang for your buck improvement. The next thing that has changed is that shipping costs have gone up pretty drastically. So air shipping is out of the question now. And now, I only use sea shipping. We only use sea shipping at Ecom Freedom, and all of our students use sea shipping. Most e-commerce sellers use sea shipping. And the reason for that is just like inflation. The price of air shipping has just gone up, and all shipping has gone up, but it shouldn't in any way dissuade you from starting e-commerce. And the reason for that is that the prices of products on average, we've all heard of inflation. The price of products on Amazon have also gone up in proportion to offset that. So the margin is exactly the same, if not higher, with a good USP. And the next thing that's changed is that building a brand and diversifying your income and your sales to Shopify. So like opening a Shopify store with your brand in parallel to your Amazon store so that you can actually make sales on there as well. And you can drive take advantage of new sources of traffic from Facebook and from those other platforms, other social media platforms, that's become so important as well. So you really want to make sure to build a brand rather than just have an Amazon storefront selling random profitable products. And the main reason for that is that if you have an Amazon store selling random products, there is not really a lot of resale value in that. It's going to be much harder to sell your business. So what you want to do is you want to build intrinsic value and resale value into your business. And the best way to do that, what I mean is like, you have your money that you make every single year, your profit, your revenue. But with a business, a great part is that you can actually also sell your business and cash out and make a lot of profit, at that one point when you sell it. So the best way of getting the most amount of money for your brand is by actually building a brand, a line of products that is a specific niche or specific like line of products like I did with the Jade Roller and Derma Roller. So those are my first four Amazon products, my failures, my successes. I wanted to share that with you because I knew that it would just motivate you so much. And I think it just like more transparency and, you can kind of look into my journey and how I became successful on Amazon back then in 2017. Obviously, a lot of time has passed since then. Now, one big focus of mine is ecom freedom, where we've helped over 15,000 people start a successful e-commerce business. That's like half my focus. The other half is I am building a really big brand right now that I can't talk about. I hopefully will be able to talk about it soon. I will. But it's in the food and bev industry, food and beverage, and it's also e-commerce. So super excited about that. But if you want to learn how to make 6 to 7 figures a year on Amazon FBA, and you want to learn how to build a brand that's going to stand the test of time, they're going to be able to sell for a cash windfall later. And if you want to learn from a team of $1 million sellers, verified $1 million sellers who are actually in the game every single day on Amazon and they're killing it and they're making sales and they're coaching students, then I highly invite you to join our 7-day free trial of the Ecom Freedom Amazon FBA course. You can find the link down below for that. It is by far the most incredible Amazon course out there, according to our students, not even according to me. We have an incredible Trustpilot score of, I think right now it's like a 4.3, 4.4, which is absolutely incredible. I'm really, really proud of that. And those reviews are real. They're from our students. They really can't be faked. You can ask any of our members, if they enjoyed the course. We've had 1,000 success stories. So 7-day free trial, 0 risk. If you don't like it, you can always cancel and you don't get charged a dime. So the link for that is down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay positive. Have an amazing day. Dream big. And just remember that if I can do it, genuinely, I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can do it too. Thank you so much. Peace.